Osama bin Laden. Just hearing the name brings to mind a pivotal moment in modern history. In this explainer, we're going to trace the factual history of the founder of al-Qaeda. We'll look at everything from his privileged origins to his transformation into a global militant, and really examine the ideology that ended up reshaping the 21st century. So let's start at the beginning. He was born on March 10, 1957, in Riyadh, and he was born into a world of incredible wealth and influence. You see, his father, Mohammed bin Laden, was this self-made construction billionaire who had a very close relationship with the Saudi royal family. This upbringing gave Osama not just a devout Islamic education, but also access to the huge resources and connections that would, later become so crucial to his cause. Now, it was really a single geopolitical event that would completely change the course of his life, transforming him from a quiet university student into an active combatant. So this is the story of how that radicalization began. It all started in 1979, when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. A 22-year-old bin Laden saw it as a direct assault on the global Muslim community. So he traveled to Pakistan. But he didn't go as a fighter. Not at first. He went as an organizer. He started using his family's fortune and their construction empire to help the Afghan resistance, moving money, supplies, even heavy machinery right to the front lines. His efforts went to support the Mujahideen. Now, if you're not familiar, the Mujahideen were guerrilla fighters who were waging what they considered a holy war, or jihad, against the non-Muslim Soviet invaders. Bin Laden's key contribution here was creating a logistical pipeline for foreign fighters. He funded their travel, he set up guest houses, and he built this network that brought thousands of Arab volunteers to the Afghan front. And it was right here that he really sharpened the organizational skills that would become his trademark. The Soviet withdrawal, well, that was a huge victory. But for bin Laden, the fight was far from over. The network he had built for this one war was about to be repurposed for a global struggle. This is the moment he formalizes his organization and starts down a path that would put him on a collision course with his own country and with the United States. So in 1988, he co-founded al-Qaeda. The name is Arabic for the base. And it really did start as a kind of database, basically a list of all the Arab fighters who had come through his camps in Afghanistan. But its purpose was always looking forward. The idea was to harness this legion of battle-hardened militants for future fights and to create a vanguard for a global Islamic movement. After the war, he returned to Saudi Arabia as a hero. But that relationship with the monarchy soured pretty quickly. See, when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, bin Laden was furious that the Saudi kingdom allowed hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops onto its soil, the very land of Islam's holiest sites. To him, this was an absolute defilement. His public criticism turned him into an enemy of the state. So by 1992, he had relocated to Sudan, using it as a new base to build al-Qaeda into a multinational operation, with legitimate businesses actually funding a network of training camps. But by 1996, under pressure from the U.S., Sudan expelled him. And so he returned to a place he knew well, Afghanistan, this time under the protection of the newly risen Taliban. The final break with his homeland became official in 1994. Because of his escalating militant activities and his rhetoric coming out of Sudan, the Saudi government went ahead and revoked his citizenship. His family, under immense pressure, publicly disowned him and cut off his access to the family fortune. And just like that, his transformation from a privileged insider to a stateless enemy was complete. Okay, so now he's based in Afghanistan, and his primary grievance has really solidified. Bin Laden's focus narrows down to a single enemy, the United States, and his war was no longer going to be one of just words. It was about to become one of coordinated, violent attacks against American interests all across the globe. He made this hostility formal in 1998. In a fatwa, which is a kind of religious ruling, bin Laden declared that it was the duty of every Muslim to kill Americans and their allies, and that included both military and civilians, wherever they could be found. His justification was laid out very clearly: the ongoing U.S. military presence in the Arabian Peninsula and its policies in the region. There was no ambiguity here. This was a direct declaration of war. And he didn't wait long to act on it. Just a few months later, al-Qaeda showed its global reach with simultaneous truck bombings at the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania.
These coordinated attacks killed 224 people, the vast majority of whom were African civilians, and it announced bin Laden's arrival on the world stage as a very new and formidable threat.
The escalation didn't stop there. In October of 2000, al-Qaeda operatives in a small boat packed with explosives rammed the USS Cole, a Navy destroyer that was refueling in Yemen. The blast just tore a massive hole in the ship's hull, and it killed 17 U.S. sailors. It was yet another demonstration of al-Qaeda's patient planning and its lethal execution. This campaign of violence reached its devastating peak on September 11, 2001. In a meticulously planned operation, al-Qaeda operatives hijacked 4 commercial airliners. 2 were flown directly into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York. A third was flown into the Pentagon, just outside Washington, D.C., and the 4th crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. The final death toll was 2,977. It was an attack on a scale that had never been seen before on U.S. soil. The 9/11 attacks, as you can imagine, triggered an immediate and massive response. The United States and its allies launched a global operation with one singular focus: to find and bring to justice the leaders of al-Qaeda. And at the top of that list, of course, was Osama bin Laden. What followed would become one of the most extensive and longest manhunts in modern history. At first, the trail was hot. In late 2001, U.S. forces were convinced they had bin Laden cornered in the cave complexes of Tora Bora in eastern Afghanistan. But after a fierce battle, he slipped away. He just vanished into the rugged, tribal borderlands of Pakistan. This was a critical missed opportunity, one that would end up extending the hunt for nearly another decade. So for the next 10 years, the search went on. Bin Laden would release occasional audio and video messages, but his actual physical location remained a complete mystery. Most people just assumed he was hiding out somewhere in that remote border region. But the critical break, it didn't come from a high-tech satellite. It came from old-fashioned intelligence work, patiently tracking a trusted courier, which in the end led to a very mysterious compound far from the border. The discovery of that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, well, that set in motion the final act of this decade-long pursuit. Its conclusion would not only end the manhunt, but it would also mark the beginning of assessing the long-term consequences of everything bin Laden had done. And the location itself was a shock. It was this large, secure compound in Abbottabad, a Pakistani military city. It wasn't a remote cave like everyone thought. So on May 2, 2011, after months of surveillance and planning, the final operation was launched. Under the direct authority of President Barack Obama, a team of U.S. Navy SEALs executed a helicopter raid on the compound. The mission was codenamed Operation Neptune Spear, and it was swift. In the firefight that followed, Osama bin Laden was killed. The events set in motion by bin Laden and al-Qaeda had these massive, far-reaching consequences that really reshaped global policy. The attacks led directly to the launch of the War on Terror. They led to the creation of huge new security agencies like the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and to long, drawn-out military engagements in both Afghanistan and Iraq. Within al-Qaeda itself, leadership passed to bin Laden's longtime deputy, Ayman al-Zawahiri. But really, the world had been changed forever. So the history of Osama bin Laden is really inseparable from this period of profound global change. His actions directly altered international security, the very nature of modern conflict, and domestic policies in countries all over the world. These consequences continue to resonate today, and it prompts this enduring question: how did one man's journey so fundamentally reshape the course of the 21st century?